across the country, there is a movement of going local, buying local, shopping local, banking local. And I think that's in part because people are frustrated with the big corporations who they feel aren't serving them. And so we're starting to see cities picking this up and chambers picking it up and organizations like ours promoting to the public and to businesses why it's so important for us to be supporting ourselves at a local level. One of the easiest things people can do these days is to think about how they're spending their money. And one of the first things is looking at where you have your money saved, where you're doing your checking, your savings, and moving your money to a local credit union or locally owned bank.
But what do you get out of banking locally? A couple of things. One, unlike the big banks, they're going to take your deposit $1. They're likely to lend it out. And they're going to lend it out where they can get the best return for it. Could be for an oil derrick, it could be for condominiums in the East Coast. That does help the economy. There, not here. You make a local deposit at a local financial institution, that money stays here. It funds the house down the street. It maybe buys your next car. It gets you a home equity loan that finances college for some kid down the street. The money is reused, reinvested locally.
So when a bank lends to a local merchant, they spend on local employees, and those local employees spend on local businesses, and that money recirculates itself back to the bank through increased deposits at those local banks, and they lend some more. So it's just, the idea is a circular flow of money that remains within a certain area.
Well, I think you have to make the distinction between a larger out-of-area bank as opposed to a local community bank. A local community bank, at least for Summit State Bank, while there's many banks that still want to lend, they're not able to lend. They have challenges perhaps on the loan side. Fortunately, we have many strengths, including asset quality as well as our capitalization, which allows us to continue to lend. So we're not only able to lend, we're willing to lend and want to lend to strengthen our community.
Throughout I guess the meetings with the bank, Summit State Bank was the only bank that actually dealt with us on how can we do this? How can we succeed in making this work? Working hand in hand with SBA, all the people at Summit State Bank were actually invested in our local business as opposed to dialing 1-800 numbers for the big banks that were really, oh, we can't do it. You're just not going to be able to do it. Business is great. Within, I'd say, 6 months of funding the loan with Summit State Bank, they not only gave us service after the sale, but they helped us finance and bring in new equipment, grow to realize our dream of being the top towing, light-duty towing facility in Sonoma County.
Currently, we own and operate a successful inn along the Russian River. I went to one of the large banks, and they just responded that because I owned a hotel, hotels were on their blacklist for lending. There was no review of my specific finances. I was just told, sorry, you're in the wrong column. So I went to Community First, and they were local. They understood my business, they knew my business, and I'm here because I got my mortgage.
The need for dental surgery for low-income children is greater than ever. Because of the downturn in the economy, more families are struggling. A lot of them have lost their jobs or their employer has dropped dental insurance. The PDI Surgery Center is seeing more and more patients who need our help. Summit State Bank made it possible for the PDI Surgery Center to build our 2 operatory room surgery center in Windsor that serves low-income children that have severe tooth decay. And without the trust and the relationship that we have with Summit State Bank, it simply wouldn't have been possible.
Well, over time, we just got more and more frustrated with big banks, and the reason being is that they didn't seem to be customer focused. They seemed, like big corporations, they got more and more stockholder focused than customer or people focused. I went in with my son to deposit a check. He owed us some money, and he'd got a check from selling some stock. And it was from a big bank, very well recognized bank, and they would not deposit it in my account. I felt like a criminal trying to deposit a check into my own account.
People are frustrated about the state of the economy, and they feel like they don't have any control over it. So when we realize that with every dollar we spend, we're making a choice. We're putting our money and our values behind what we're spending it on. And as people realize that their money's leaving the community and we're supporting these big corporations who really aren't supporting us at a local level, if we can shift our spending and our savings to our local institutions, we actually start supporting ourselves. This is not an all or nothing thing. We know we can't get everything locally, but if we can start thinking go local first, when we have a choice, if we can support our independent, locally owned businesses first, it really does make a difference. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be 1%, a 10% shift in the money that we're already spending. If we can choose independent, locally owned banks, credit unions, and businesses first, that does have a huge multiplier effect. And that money recirculates in our community at least 3 times as long. And that's powerful.
Yeah, the truth is that 6th Street Playhouse wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the support of our local businesses in this community. It's interesting that Summit State Bank was one of the original people who loaned us money to break ground on this building. When you're shopping and banking locally, your money goes into an institution that then reinvests back into its community. That's a very important way to keep our economy going and to keep the arts thriving.
If you want to make a real difference in your community, get involved with Go Local. You can find out more at golocal.coop and move your money.